Now, Kate Jenkins' report, Respect at Work, is a game changer.
A game changer commissioned at the height of the Me Too movement.
We are here! We will not go away!
Its recommendations on sexual harassment in the workplace delivered to the government last January, and then nothing. Or at least not much.
How many meetings has Mr Porter had with departmental officers regarding implementation of the Respect at Work report?
We have not met, as far as I recall, with the attorney.
The government providing initial responses to just 9 of the 55 recommendations.
There were many issues that we were not unable to advance last year because of the demands and pressures of COVID. But not on one occasion last year was I asked about this matter in the House of Representatives, nor were my ministers.
But now that the pressure is on again...
The same stale, tired fight.
Enough is enough! Making noise!
The report's been dusted off.
All 55 recommendations are either agreed, wholly in part or in principle, or noted where they are directed to governments or organisations other than the Australian government.
One of those noted, meaning the government is still making up its mind, is one of Kate Jenkins' key recommendations, introducing a positive duty on employers to take reasonable steps to eliminate sexual harassment. The government's response to other recommendations is more promising.
We will clarify that sexual harassment can be a ground or a valid reason for dismissal.
Cash also closing a loophole that leaves MPs, judges and public servants exempt from the Sex Discrimination Act, and extending the time victims have to come forward with a complaint.
Currently it's 6 months. As you know, victims don't necessarily come forward in that 6-month period. We're going to extend that out to 24 months.
So, with the PM aiming for action on the changes by budget time, is this enough to finally get Australia's house in order?
We did invite Michaelia Cash, Maurice Payne, Amanda Stoker and Kate Jenkins on the show tonight. They all declined or didn't respond to us in time. We're joined now by Guardian political reporter Amy Remenikis from Canberra. All right, Amy, first things first, do you agree wholly, in part or in principle that the government's response to this report will have an impact?
Look, I've taken note of your question and I will respond at a later date on that one, I think. I think that's the way that we do things now. We just note that we've taken note of the recommendation and then we just see what happens.
They're not all noted, though. They do adopt quite a few of them. So the impact question is a reasonably important one. Do you think it will have an impact?
Look, I think it will have an impact if it is properly implemented. Essentially, these are a lot of common sense recommendations here that are about changing workplace culture. It's literally about taking the onus off individuals and making it a change across workplaces as a whole, rather than just having one person trying to fight against a system.
Amy, what does all that language even mean? And how hopeful are you that some of the noted or in principle recommendations will be adopted?
The language is a little bit deceiving. Essentially, it means that the government does agree with the premise of the report, but they're still a little bit unsure about how they're going to implement it as policy. So when they've noted something, they're saying like, yes, we agree with this, but maybe there's some other ways we can get around this. Maybe we need to talk to other jurisdictions, other governments. Maybe we need to talk to the private sector. These ones are going to take more time. Where they've said we agree in principle, it essentially means like, yeah, we agree with this recommendation, but we don't agree with the way that you want us to solve it. We think that maybe we can come up with a different way to try and do the same thing. So they do agree with the premise of the report, which is why I think there is hope that this will eventually lead to some change.
So they'll kind of get back to us. Is that what you're saying, Amy?
Yes, basically.
One of the recommendations they've acted on is making sure that MPs, judges and public servants are no longer exempt from the Sex Discrimination Act. How was that ever even a loophole?
Well, that was something that was meant to be so that no one could interfere with the judiciary or with the executive, so that they could hire the people that they wanted and they couldn't be forced into doing something that they didn't want. Obviously, in 2021, that's a loophole that is just well overdue for change, and it's something that the crossbenchers have been working very hard to try and get change. So we saw Rebecca Sharkey and Zali Steggall come out today and say thank you for finally doing something on this.
Amy, could any of these changes, like the closing of that MP loophole, see politicians actually held to account, or heaven forbid, even sacked?
Well, maybe held to account within some very strict parameters, but not sacked, because the only people who can sack you are the public. Unless you meet a couple of constitutional requirements, you get to sit in the parliament for as long as the public vote you in there. The only thing that any political party can do is sack you from the political party.
Amy, thanks very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Pretty strong stuff, that. But I think the thing that frustrates me when I hear some of those words, so words like, you know, noted or in principle, is we don't actually know exactly what's going to happen. Where's the stake in the ground? So the next time something happens, and I think we all agree it's inevitable, the next time something happens, what is actually going to happen? What's going to fall out of it? We still don't know. We're still just as in the dark. And as you said, Lisa, they'll get back to us.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it so many times with Indigenous issues, and to this day, they continue to carry on. So I'm very cynical when it comes to this stuff, and I would hate to see that happen again here.
Well, you'd love to think that with Kate Jenkins in the House, still doing that report, that she will keep everyone honest and on guard and doing the right thing and moving towards real, meaningful change, that once it's happening on the ground, that we get the right outcomes as a result.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.